It's December 7th, 1944, the third anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. The U.S. is still fighting World War II, and yet Macy's New York department store experiences record sales. I mean, the end of the war is in sight, but some of the bloodiest and biggest battles are still to come, such as the Battle of the Bulge and the Battle of Okinawa, which would kill over 30,000 U.S. soldiers. And yet people are shopping. They really want to get back to a normal life. We're now beginning to experience the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine, but you may also be experiencing lots of uncertainty about your workforce and how it will change in the post-pandemic life. Fortunately, there are great lessons we can learn from the transition at the end of World War II from a wartime to a peacetime economy, when the U.S. went through amazing changes. Here are 4 insights that will help you make better decisions about your workforce while coping with the uncertainties of the next year. First, prosperity and suffering are going to coexist as the COVID-19 pandemic comes to an end. Just as people were shopping like crazy at Macy's in 1944 while soldiers were still dying, we can expect to feel tension between short and long-term needs as the pandemic ends. Government will want businesses to stay cautious, using masks and social distancing until COVID is totally under control. At the same time, business leaders are going to feel tremendous pressure to boost revenues and pursue aggressive growth strategies. Here's a second lesson from the end of World War II. Plan to help your employees recover psychologically. Lots of the 12 million soldiers leaving the military service in 1945 needed time to heal from their psychological as well as their physical wounds of war. Some suffered PTSD, which manifested as anxiety, depression, and even alcoholism. Today, some of the employees, particularly essential workers and frontline healthcare workers, will need time to heal from the psychological wounds left by working through the pandemic. Some evidence of this is the fact that last spring, when the COVID-19 pandemic started, the rate of anti-anxiety prescriptions went up 34% in the first month. One of the byproducts of the incredibly stressful COVID work environment, I expect, is going to be early retirements by nurses, doctors, public health officials, as well as veterans in other fields. These are people who are burned out and just decide they've had enough. Smart leaders are going to anticipate the increased need for mental health services in their organization. At the same time, they're going to look longer term at the impact of the pandemic on their talent pipeline. The third lesson from World War II I call Rosie the Riveter can't find daycare. Millions of women joined the U.S. workforce during World War II to fill jobs in industry that were traditionally held by men who had gone off to fight. But in 1945, when servicemen returned, 5 million women were laid off to open up jobs for those veterans. Today, in a similar way, women are paying a huge price for the COVID-19 disruption. In fact, the biggest impact on the workforce may be the number of women being forced out of the labor pool by the loss of child care options. More than 800,000 women have left the workforce in 2020, and according to a McKinsey study, another 2 million working mothers are considering leaving the workforce or downshifting their careers. This is a disaster that hasn't yet been quantified in economic terms, but it's certainly a major talent drain on the workforce pipeline. And this in an era when women hold many key roles on leadership teams and also hold high skill and middle skill jobs that are critical to many businesses. To minimize your talent losses and to sustain a viable pipeline of young and mid-career workers, you must find innovative ways to support working mothers. How do you do this? First, rebuilding child care options is going to be central to any long-term solution. And in the meantime, companies that can provide alternative childcare solutions or at least demonstrate maximum flexibility to support working mothers will have a strong advantage in recruiting and retaining talented women. The fourth lesson from World War II is the need to reduce the education gaps that have been aggravated by the COVID-19 shutdown. In 1944, Congress passed what became known as the GI Bill, which allowed 8 million veterans to take advantage of the bill's training and education benefits. This qualified them for higher paying jobs that had all kinds of positive ripple effects for the economy. Imagine if those veterans had just been allowed to drift back into a changing labor pool. The labor productivity would have been much lower in this country after World War II. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated our own educational needs. We've lost at least a year of pre-employment training like internships, apprenticeships, and plant tours. That's because employers and schools have had to dramatically cut on-site programs. And the work-oriented education of many community college students has been disrupted by the loss of income needed to pay their tuition. How can you close this work-based education gap in your business? Can you increase the number of internships as soon as it is safe? Can you double down on career awareness programs once schools will participate again? Can you invest in more online initiatives to educate potential employees about opportunities? Or can you find novel ways to help community college students accelerate the completion of their training? It's going to take new levels of collaboration between employers, schools, chambers of commerce, and workforce development organizations to come up with practical regional solutions to these educational problems. The transition out of the COVID-19 pandemic will be a great relief, but it's going to create its own set of management challenges. First, expect tension between those still suffering and society's pent-up desire to move on. Second, recognize that some employees will need time and resources to recover psychologically from working through the pandemic. Third, confront the childcare crisis head on. We can't afford to lose the capabilities and experience of working parents. Be proactive in looking for innovative solutions to these childcare issues, and take a different look at the workforce development initiatives in your organization. COVID-19 has created work-based learning challenges that didn't exist previously. Now is the time to be investing in really creative solutions. For more detailed lessons from the U.S. transition out of World War II and actionable steps you can take today to meet the workforce challenges you're facing to build your future workforce, please go to my website, smartworkforcestrategies.com, and check out my blog there. In the meantime, stay well.